I want to bring in NBC's Kelly O'Donnell, who's in Madison, Wisconsin, where former President Obama will be next hour. Matt Gorman is a Republican strategist who was an advisor to Tim Scott's campaign, aide to Jeb Bush and Mitt Romney, and former communications director at the NRCC. And Cornell Belcher is a Democratic pollster, founder of Brilliant Corners Research, and an MSNBC political analyst. Okay, Cornell, is this blue wall stuff nervousness, typical Democratic angst, or do you think in a race where virtually every battleground state is tied, they'd be crazy not to worry?
Well, I think you know the answer to that. You got to be worried about all the states. But look, as someone who worked on both of the Obama campaigns, you're nervous about all the states, but it's also why you put multiple states in play, right? I remember before election night, David Plouffe, then Obama's campaign manager, talking about how we're not going to be sitting around on election night waiting for one state to come in to decide the race. And that's why you have the Harris campaign putting multiple states into play and spending across multiple battlegrounds. In case if one state does fall, you have multiple pathways. I will say this about Michigan and Wisconsin. Look, if you look at too much of this conversation, by the way, is asymmetrical, right? It's all about Harris and what she's got to do. But quite frankly, if I'm on the other side and I'm calling this, look, it's just as much about what Donald Trump's got to do. If you look at Michigan and Wisconsin, where is Donald Trump? Not in the polling, but where he is on election day. He's always at 48%. That 48% worked in 2016 when you had a lot of third-party voting. But I would argue that he's got to break above 48% in Michigan and Wisconsin in order to win those states without a lot of third-party voting. And not from polling, but and polling also shows he's always at ceiling of 48%. I would argue that from a strategic standpoint, I think the challenge really is for how does Donald Trump raise his ceiling in those states when we've had back-to-back elections where we know where voters have ended up, and it's 48% for Donald Trump.
So, Matt, can he raise his ceiling, which has generally and for a long time been considered to be 48%? Does he have the heavier lift in those blue wall states?
Well, I think the fact we're talking about it as the blue wall, right? These were always the safeguards for Democrats here. As you saw, even David Plouffe admits North Carolina could be slipping away from them ever so slightly. The Georgia Atlanta Journal-Constitution plot today has a 4-point lead for Trump there. So really what it's come down to, you've shrunk the battlefield, right? And so if Trump picks off any one of these states, particularly Pennsylvania, then that's the ball game here, folks. And what I'm watching very closely is also the actions of some of the down ballot candidates. You have Bob Casey, senator from Pennsylvania, in a tight race. You have Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin in a tight race. They're incorporating Trump into their ads favorably, praising the work they've done with them. So what that tells me is they need some of these Trump, possibly Baldwin or Trump Casey voters. They see where things are on the top of the ticket, and they need to be able to get some of that crossover vote. More than anything else, that tells me where the state of the presidential race is in some of these places.
So, Kelly, that brings me to you. Madison, Wisconsin. Why there? Why now for former President Obama?
Well, good to be with you, Chris. This is the point hours ahead of the event when the audio vendor is showing what he can do by blasting the music. So I hope you can hear me okay. This is the first day of early voting, and Madison is, of course, a college town. It is the state capital, and I've been talking with Democratic officials here, and they say that Dane County has swelled in its size of population, and they believe they have more Democratic registered voters here. And one thing about Wisconsin is they've had so many competitive races for a series of years that the operational actions of the nitty-gritty, getting out the vote, is something that, frankly, both parties know a lot about. Democrats certainly know about. And so they believe this is a critical time. So bringing Barack Obama here, where he can try to fill that space while Vice President Harris is doing interviews today, can try to get voters capitalizing on the moment. They can vote now. Election day is here. Get them to do it. And certainly being with Governor Walz is part of also trying to do the outreach to the rural communities. So you've got the mix of the student population, the core Democratic base, the suburban and rural voters who are a little farther out who will be paying attention to this today, and that they believe they can act on it. Moving from simply talking about the election to actually being able to cast ballots. That moment is here now for Wisconsin, and that's what they want to try to bring the energy to. Chris.
So, Matt, thank you very much, first of all, Kelly, and admirable job. I have been there, not fun when the music is blasting to try to talk over it. Matt, look, the most valuable asset that a campaign has is their candidate's time, right? We remember when Hillary Clinton famously chose not to go to Wisconsin in the lead up to the general election. She ended up losing it. There have been countless conversations about whether that was a key in costing her the election. And we actually heard Donald Trump criticizing Harris today for not holding any rallies. Here's what he said just a short time ago.
I was going to hit her really hard on the trail today, but now I don't have to because she's off. She's off. No, I can't get over it. Who the hell takes off? We have 14 days left, and she'll take a couple of more days off, too. You know why? She's lazy as hell, and she's got that reputation.
You've been in those meetings. Talk about the strategic decisions that have to be made. They're not easy. The closer you get to Election Day, about how and when to deploy candidates. In this case, a rally in one of the battleground states or a sit-down interview with a couple of networks that has a broader audience, but some people would say loses that energy. What do you think? Take us inside those conversations.
Yeah, everyone is different, right? So, example, some candidates are stronger in the morning. Some candidates are stronger later at night. So, for example, George W. Bush always went to bed early. He always wanted his events early in the morning. Say Tim Scott was a bit of a night owl. He liked his events a little bit later in the day. So you want to be able to get your candidate when they're at their highest level of energy. And you're right. 2 big interviews today for Kamala Harris, later today with Hallie Jackson, and obviously another one later, too. Objectively, I think maybe if she was up for it, squeeze in a morning event somewhere, maybe in Wisconsin, maybe in Pennsylvania. So you get a little bit of a local press, too, and you're still able to obviously prep, rest, and take care of yourself in order for those interviews later today. You're absolutely right. Time is precious. Fit them in where you can.
So what do you think about that, Cornell? And what do you think about the decisions that have to be made? How hard are they sometimes? I tell this story to my team all the time. 2000, there was really no security to speak of at airports. I would literally arrive at an airport and wait to hear where the campaign had decided to go the next day and then try to get on a plane to get there. Obviously, those days are gone, but those decisions are made often in real time.
Yeah, and also maybe even smoke a cigarette on the airplane.
Well, let's not talk about that.
Well, I gotta say, the hilarity of this is what's doing it for me is on this network. We've reported on how Donald Trump has been canceling events and canceling interviews for the whole week because apparently he's exhausted and he's falling asleep. We've reported that on this network. So I think it's hilarious, this idea that she's not on the trail. Look, I think she's done a very good job.
And he also said that he can't respond to her. I mean, she has to be at a rally for him to be able to talk about her. Well, we know, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little odd, but look, I have no issue with the way the Harris campaign is using the candidate's time. Look, I think arguably she's dominated the news cycle for the last 2 weeks, and dominated in a way that is unconventional, and dominated in a way that a lot of sort of our traditional media doesn't like, because she's been doing podcasts and she's been doing narrowcasting, and you know what? When you look at the audience out there that she needs to bring home the most, especially with those younger viewers. I love our network, but a lot of those millennials and those voters under 25, they're not tuning in to cable broadcast news programming. So she's going where her voters are, and I think that makes a big lot of strategic sense. And also, look, her surrogate's out there. And whether you're Democrat or Republican, look, the guy who won Wisconsin going away last time around, Barack Obama, guess where he's going to be? He's going to be in Michigan and Wisconsin for her stomping. So I think it makes an awful lot of sense.